less than 5 years face almost 3 times the risk of illness from unsafe food than older children and adults. And this according to new estimates released by the World Health Organization, WHO, and they were released just yesterday. Now, despite being just 9% of the global population, young children suffer from nearly 1/3 of all cases of foodborne diseases, particularly diarrheal diseases, which can be deadly for this vulnerable age group. And in addition, exposure to chemical hazards such as methyl mercury and lead in food can harm the developing brain and cause lifelong neurological and developmental problems in children. We did promise you the last time Alison was on that she would join us for another conversation focused on World Safety Day. The theme for this year's World Food Safety Day is From Burden to Solutions, Safe Food Everywhere. Good morning, Alison.
Morning, Althea.
Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm a bit tired, but I'm excited because World Food Safety Day is Sunday, and I'm the food safety girl. I have to talk about food safety.
Of course. That's what food safety people do.
Right?
They talk about food. I know that there are many people who will take a step back and say 866 million.
Yes.
1.5 million deaths annually.
And I'm still alive. Alive.
Yeah,
because number.
It sounds like lie though.
Yeah, but it's funny. And remember, I think last time I was on, we spoke about the idea that culturally,
yes,
we think I guess.
Yes.
We get incidences of foodborne illnesses, but it's not being reported. We self-diagnose, we self-treat. It's not, there's no surveillance system in place. So we do have those cases, but they're not recorded. So we're technically not a part of that statistic. But how the whole epidemiology thing works is that these are numbers based on projections. Right. So it is, I would say, I would trust in those numbers.
Yes. And particularly because this is a new study. This is not old information. Mm-hmm. This is the latest information published by the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
We have scores of people dying, millions of people dying from foodborne illnesses. Yeah. But outside of that, as you so rightly point out, it is the fact that many people do not even know that they've had a foodborne illness, and sometimes they miss dying by the skin of them teeth.
And they don't even know.
They don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't even know. So that's why conversations like they are important. Also, as you point out, World Food Safety Day is the 7th. Yes. And the theme this year, From Burden to Solution, Safe Food Everywhere. Break down that theme for us.
So I think when you think about burdens to solution, it's so easy for us to complain. We talk about all the things that are going wrong, but what are the solutions to that issue? And that is my take on, or my interpretation of this theme. Yes, we have these burdens. We have foodborne illnesses. We have climate change, food insecurity, food waste, misinformation in the public. But what solutions can we implement and practice to reduce these burdens?
For a country like Jamaica, we love our food. There's no denying that Jamaicans love their food, and we have a wide variety of food that tastes good.
Yeah.
Now, how do we keep safe in the space with all of that going around? The gastronomy business has grown by leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So everywhere you go across the length and breadth of the island, you see people cooking up a storm. How do we stay safe in the space with all of that happening?
And you mentioned something before I share what the solutions are about the nature of our cooking changing, because I think we've adopted some of the Americans. Where you have a culture where we're stewing everything, we're overcooking, which is what really has been saving us.
So that is one thing.
However, we're moving away from that because we see persons now, sprinkle like a garnish and, the sushi and those things. So persons are becoming a bit more evolved as it relates to our palates here. So that is another risk we also need to consider. How do we prevent these burdens, foodborne illnesses? The number one thing is hygiene. Are we washing our hands? We have this thing where we just use water, rinse off our hand. Hand washing is so ineffective without using soap.
If COVID taught us nothing else, it should teach us to wash our hands properly.
Trust me, some people still don't know. And it's funny, I remember doing a training with some persons, and it's one thing to sit and talk about it. Everybody, know for. I remember I asked them, who can tell me how you wash your hands? And everybody know for wash their hands. Until it was the practical time, I'm just stand up in one corner and watch them. And they're not washing their hands how
That's
they
right.
think they know how to wash their
Yes,
hands.
yes.
So, that was a driving home message from me. I'd say you know how to wash your hands, but you're really not doing what you need to do. So, as simple as it is, our nails, we're wearing our acrylics or our long nails. How are we scrubbing beneath our nails, And that is why it's important to not have nail polish and those things especially when you're preparing food for the public. So, hygiene is one very important one. You have to be washing your hands. Another important topic that came up is the whole heap of talking over the food. That is a thing.
Spit flying everywhere.
People are noticing it more, that it's a whole conversational thing when people are at work. And I'm, talking about it, I'm saying that we're not saying everyone must come to work maimed, but there has to be a time and place. And I've experienced it where, you literally watch a worker having a whole conversation instead of
so beyond when you join the food line at work, beyond establishing what it is that you want in your food box, you really ought not to be doing a lot of chatting over the food.
Yeah, but you have people who I don't think they appreciate why you're not supposed to be talking, and then people saying you must wear a mask. A mask is not the issue. Talking is the issue. Stop talking, right? So mask is the same thing. It accumulate dirt, you touch your mask, so the root cause is talking, which we want to really lessen. Another one is separating our raw meats from our cooked meats. Right? We have to be able to, in our refrigerators at home, storing our meats below or ready to eat food so our meat juice is not dripping down. We want to make sure we're using different cutting boards. The cutting board that you're using for your meat
shouldn't be the same one you use for your vegetables.
Right?
Yeah.
So all of those things, we're talking about temperature control, making sure that when you're thawing out your chicken, it's not leaving out on the countertop. You're putting it in your refrigerator. So all is just a culmination of things you really want to do. Food waste. People don't think about food waste as a food safety issue, but you spend all of these resources to make food, but then you waste it away, right? So how are we reusing our food? How we store our leftovers to reuse them? All of those things we need to think about.
Okay. Any idea how World Food Safety Day will be observed here in Jamaica come Sunday?
Well, besides the food safety girl talking about food safety all week, I know the Southeast Regional Health Authority is having an initiative where last year they actually had a 5K walk, which I went to. So tomorrow, actually, they're having a 5K in Clarendon from their health department. Definitely. So I'll be there. I'll be there. And I know you have private companies who are doing internal things, which I'm supposed to be a part of a few. Some of them have invited me to talk to their team. So you have persons and industry players who are celebrating it internally. Just the other day I was at Total Energies. They have an excellent food safety culture there, I would say. So that is my hope and the drive, that persons, it might not be a nationwide thing, but persons are individually in their own circles finding ways to promote the idea of food safety, because I think we have a Jamaican on a whole, I think there's a very poor food safety culture. People just don't care.
And it is so interesting that you say that, because very often you hear of challenges happening in places like the United States. And you said, we never hear about anything like that in Jamaica. It happens, but I think that we also have a very strong system of accountability. It makes the world of difference in terms of the approach that we take. You're mentioning the home. Things like not using the same cutting board for your meat and your vegetables. But what else should we be doing in our homes? I'll take a look at the institutions when we come back from the news. But what else should we be doing in our homes to encourage food safety for our family?
Well, one thing I want to also point out, which you don't think about a lot, cleaning out your fridge. How often are you cleaning out your fridge? You have condiments that we use so often, or our salad dressings or mayonnaise.
We have condiments in the fridge that just stay in the fridge.
From Jesus was a boy, right? So we take it for granted. Sometimes you go in and it's when you use that. And trust me, even me, the food safety girl, guilty. Sometimes I say, no, I haven't used this, and I have to check the dates, check the lot codes. And that is something I want to touch on probably after we come from the news, or date labels. Those are so important. And what is the difference between an expiration date, a best before, a sell by, a use by? I really want to touch on that a bit, because I do have a webinar coming up next Thursday, which is free, which I'm pretty much breaking down these different label dates, how consumers can use them, and what they really mean.
Very important. All right, let us take that break for the news. Derek is reading this morning, and he will also do weather. And then when we come back, more conversation with Miss Today is World Food Safety Day, and in studios with us this morning, Alison Richards, food safety professional, consultant, and public educator, known on Instagram and other platforms as the Food Safety Girl. And this morning, we're taking a look at From Burden to Solution, Safe Food Everywhere. That is the theme for this year's World Food Safety Day. The World Health Organization is encouraging everyone in the food supply chain to get involved, from farmers and processors, the transporters, retailers, and consumers. They say we all have a role to play in keeping food safe. Alison mentioned it earlier on. Practice food hygiene at home. The WHO, they actually have what they describe as their 5 keys to safer food. Keep clean, separate raw and cooked, cook thoroughly, keep food at safe temperatures, and use safe water and raw materials. And a good time to pick up on this conversation with you, Alison, because we all have responsibilities, but how we execute is critical. I have a concern in terms of how do we guide our children into good food safety practices?
A very good question, because you do know children are we consider them vulnerable as it relates to food safety. They're poorly or not yet developed immune system, so that really makes them at a higher risk. It's teaching the kids from early, and funny you asked about that, because I see recently that the Ministry of Health is rolling out the food safety policy nutrition in our schools, and that's really where it has to start. Can I look at grown adults and tell them start a backyard farming? It has to start from the children. So I think washing hands, I mean, we've all grown up, we grow up and hear parents, go and wash your hands before you come and eat. Go and wash your hands before you come and help me in the kitchen. Just last weekend, I decided I was going to teach my daughter how to cook rice. White rice and curry chicken. That's her favorite thing. But I'm always cooking it, and she's good at making pasta, but she don't know the rice and the chicken. And I said, Mr. Come. And of course, she just come. I'm like, please go wash your hand, lady. So that was a thing. Shout out to Malia. So it's important that you kind of explain to them. That is a thing that I think we often miss culturally. We tell our kids to do things, but we don't really explain.
We don't show them how to do it.
Why? And I
find the only thing we do when they come back, they say, "Did you use soap?"
Right. So I think explaining why, and you mentioned something in the tips that WHO had about safe water. Yes. That's something that people don't tend to think about. We think about, yes, it's water, but is it clean water? Because it defeats the purpose to use dirty water to wash your hands, right? So teaching our kids, just basic, when you finish eating, cover it in a container. Don't just put the plate in the fridge. Okay, your fridge is a whole another bacteria growth situation going on inside there. So those are the simple ways, because their brains are not really grasping. It's just, oh, mommy said this, but kind of just influencing them, teaching them that these are the small things that you do and why it's important. And we find that because kids do grow up into adults, and I find that most of my training participants, the disconnect is that they're being told to do something, but they don't understand why they need to do it. And that is what really bridges the gap for them to kind of be like, changes the mindset. We need to do this because that's something like your phone. We use our phones. We're in our bathroom with our phones, because we not go bathroom without a phone. And we're on our phone scrolling, and all of those bacteria that leaves our body can be in the air on our phone, but it's that same phone when we see the TikTok recipe we reach back in the kitchen with a scroll, right? With relative callers. So those are some things you don't really think about, but that is what you need. So at home with our children is really just making sure that they understand. Another thing that comes up in the home often is if you're using ants powder, you're using your roach gel. Kids are there, things drop on the floor, they eat them. So all of those things you really have to be mindful of, because if they drop food on the floor and there's ants powder, a lick away, then of course you know what the implications are as it relates to that.
They will have some of that ants powder, so we need to make sure that we're keeping them safe. Now, come Sunday, what are some of the ways in which we're I don't know if it's celebrating, it's more observing World Food Safety Day. What are some of the ways that we can acknowledge that, yes, we have a responsibility, a role to play in food safety?
And let's just use the Sunday dinner as an example. We do the fried chicken and with 2 meat, our rice and peas. how are we defrosting our chicken and our meats? So we want to start that from Saturday, Friday, right? Put it in a refrigerator. That's not a key way.
Not in a bowl of water in the
Not
sink.
in a bowl of water. You can run it under cold water under your sink, running water, but never in a standing bowl of water. We're seasoning our chicken. We're marinating it. It has to be put back in the fridge. We don't leave it on the counter, right? When we're doing our rice and peas, that has a high milk content because we're using coconut milk. How long do we leave it out on the stove after we finish, right? Because the milk really increases the chance or the rate at which it will go faster. We're not putting the big pot of rice and peas in the fridge because it takes longer to cool. So you have to portion it into smaller containers. We're reheating our food. Anything you're reheating, steam supposed to come out of it. It's supposed to well hot.
That's right.
Right?
I just wanted to pause to mention as you talk about putting the food in containers, this whole issue of meal prep. Now, we lead very busy lifestyles. And so in preparing meals for the week, which some people do, I think you spoke about it the last time you were on, what should we be looking at in terms of meal prep? How can we, during that process, considering that we are preparing the food, we're not going to eat it the same day. That wouldn't be me, by the way, because I don't like leftovers.
I'm a pre-meal prep girly.
But in how do we ensure safety if we're preparing batches of food to last us throughout the week?
All right, so first things we want to make sure that we refrigerate within at least 2 hours of preparing that meal. So you don't want it to be out for too long, falling into the danger zone, which is usually between 5 and 60 degrees Celsius. After you finish cooking, once it's steam, you portion out into your different containers. You want to allow all the steam to escape. Okay, you don't want no condensation happening. So once all of that steam has escaped, airtight sealing, and you put it in the coldest part of your fridge. So you're not going to put it in the door where it opens every minute and hot air coming in, but putting it to the back of your fridge to make sure that it's cool. You want to make sure that this food is consumed within 3 to 4 days. So we tend to meal prep for an entire week.
And your Sunday dinner from the Sunday before.
Yeah, we don't really know if you eat the food when Thursday come around. Yeah. Unless you're freezing, because freezing does extend the shelf life of stuff like that. But so you know you can't freeze everything. So you really want to make sure that you're not cooking too much food. But if you do cooking for meal prep, one is making sure that your temperature is being kept at a very cold temperature. You don't want it to be enough. Remember, it's hot now, So you really want to make sure the heat is normal.
This heat is not normal. In fact, you could step outside and probably cook your food on the road.
Listen, it's exhausting.
Yes.
Luckily, I work in an office, but I'm telling you, I went on the road for lunch and I say never again. Anything where at night, them need to open some night stores because the heat outside, kudos to all those people who work on the road.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But listen here now. We invariably go out to eat. And there are lots of places. When you walk, you mentioned talking over the food as one issue. But what are some of the other issues that we should be taking a look at when we go into an establishment to have a meal?
If you walk in there and they're smelly, turn right back. It means that something is going on, right?
So you do the nose test first.
You do the nose test. If something smells off, chances are it is off, right? Your menus, are the menus clean? I don't take a restaurant serious that have sticky menu and the place just grimy, right? That is a telltale sign. How are the servers, your waitresses and your waiters? Are they well kept? I don't want no waiter will look like them just roll out of bed and them fingernail dirty and them something there. Yeah. So you wanna make sure the bathroom is also a telltale sign. If you're going to the bathroom and the bathroom nasty, chances are in the kitchen nasty too. So there's no importance being lent to sanitation on a hold. So those are some telltale signs for me. Looking at the floorboard marks, that little...
The toe kick.
Yeah, right at the bottom of the wall.
Yes, yeah.
If you see a black mark, that could be a sign, not always, but that's how, as inspectors, we used to identify that rodents might be in the place. Because them are above the whole of them black panel. Yeah, man. So you want to be making sure that you're not seeing anything too weird. But the staff's behavior is a telltale. I remember going to restaurants and them do something, you're like, hey, I call them to the side and I discreetly say, and your attitude alone tells me what your attitude is towards food safety.
Yes.
And if it's not so good, may make yourself serve your food and tell them I don't want it. That's a lesson to learn, right?
Yes,
so you have to pay attention to these things, not because it's a trendy spot to go to. You really want to make sure. And if you get a meal that is served that does not taste okay, do not be afraid to say you don't want it.
You're paying for it anyway.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, you can't tell people not to go on social media and blast the place, but sometimes it really does come to that, because I've been to places where, as during my time as an inspector, where I go as a consumer, but then how the conversation end up with me, I flash my badge and I say, listen, inspection time. So it happens, but try to do it with grace, because some people really don't know. People just, they might try to make a money, but they don't know. So approach them kindly, don't be rude, and of course you can take it from there, but just be observant. I always tell people, just be observant. You got to sense them, smell, look, feel, touch.
Right.
Yeah.
One final question for you, and it has to do with those people who are selling out on the streets. I think Crab Circle incident reminded us very much of why it is that we need
Legendary.
to pay attention to this. But in those kinds of situations, what should we as consumers be looking out for?
The same principle. Food handlers are just that, food handlers. Whether you're doing it within four walls in a confined space, or you're doing it out, even down to the man who sell bag juice in a traffic. You need to pay attention to. But you never know when store the donut when you go home night time, So how are the boxes clean? Do they look stained? Does the person look clean? Does the person look clean? Yeah. By public health standards, I know they're encouraged to wear light colors. That's the only way you're going to see dirt. Is your apron black, and we don't know what going on the apron. If it's white, it should not be dirty. How are you carrying it home to, Right. Is there running water? You might not have running, but is there a tapped bucket close by? How do you wash your hands? So you just need to look and to watch what's happening. The food, is it being, the temperature being maintained, or the pot just turn off, and how long the pot cook, so those are some things. The same principles that you exercise in a restaurant space is the same thing you're looking for when you're in public or in an street food setting. Setting. All
right, and 30 seconds now for you to tell us what the takeaway should be on World Food Safety Day come Sunday.
Don't be a part of the problem if you don't be a part of the solution. Don't complain and blame the government when all of us outside of our jobs, me working as an inspector, I'm still a consumer, so the responsibility is everybody's. It's the government's responsibility to set standards, laws, and enforce them. It is the industry, the food preparator, the manufacturer, to ensure that they're implementing these laws. But it's consumers' responsibility to hold these persons accountable.
That's right.
And to do the right thing.
Right. Thank you so very much. Alison Richards there, food safety professional consultant and public educator. The food safety girl, bringing to a close Farm Talk in Sunny Side Up. Derek will take you up to 9 o'clock. Thank you so very much, Derek. And we look forward to coming back to you on Monday with more Farm Talk in Sunny Side Up. Have yourselves a great day and a wonderful weekend. Thanks, Kareen Bradford. She is the one who introduced me to the food safety girl. Thank you very much, Kareen. So you all have a fantastic weekend.